Well, South Africa has filed an urgent request for the International Court of Justice to impose more provisional measures on Israel in order to prevent famine in Gaza. It says there is already widespread starvation in the Strip and additional orders are needed to protect Palestinians. In January, you'll recall, the UN's top court ordered Israel to refrain from any acts that could fall under the Genocide Convention, along with 5 other provisional measures. South Africa claims that Israel is already breaching those orders. Well, let's dig into this with Al Jazeera senior political analyst Marwan Bishara. He's in London. Marwan, help us understand a little more about what's happening at the International Court of Justice right now. It's already imposed these provisional measures on Israel. What sort of additional provisional measures could we see? What does South Africa want?
Well, certainly just the idea of invoking what Israel's doing and reminding the justices at the ICJ that Israel is not only not responding, Israel is basically stepping on and humiliating the court itself by turning its back on all its recommendations and taking the opposite route. Not only is it continuing with the bombing, siege, with the attacks on hospitals and residential buildings, and of course the lines for food, but it's also starving people, starving children. The malnutrition, the diseases, and the siege now is killing people silently. So genocide is clearly taking place, unraveling in plain sight with intent. Because we all understand now that the aid trucks are waiting on the borders, hundreds of them. And Israel won't let them in, even won't respond to its own ally, the United States, that's been begging the Netanyahu government to let the food in because it doesn't want to look this bad in front of its own public and internationally.
Marwan, you've been saying that Israel is acting with impunity. Is anything that South Africa or the court does, is any of that likely to make any kind of a difference?
Well, judging from the actions of the Israeli government, it seems not. It seems like they are sort of rest assured that the United States will protect them as it has in the past. Now it's been 5 months of more of the same. The Israelis, the Americans tell us, give them assurances that they will allow the humanitarian aid, that they will reduce the casualties among the Palestinians. But they don't do that. They don't follow through. If anything, it's all turning into an insult on top of the injury that Israel is humiliating its ally, it's embarrassing its partners in the West, while it continues to carry on with its genocide. The scenes of children dying, the scenes of children begging for food, the scenes of the destructions in Gaza, and let's all remember that this has been a war on children, a war on women, a war on hospitals and civilians, that Hamas has been the collateral damage here. So this all continues unabated. And the West continues to assure us that they are putting pressure. Well, guess what? The pressure is not helping. And the theatrics of dropping food from the air, as we just heard from the United Nations official, is not only doesn't work, it's once again, it adds insult to the injury in the sense that everyone is allowing Israel to act with impunity. No one is able to use their leverage or willing to use their leverage with Israel. And hence the ICJ needs to take up what is going on and to make a judgment accordingly.
Marwan, you talk about pressure from Israel's Western allies. Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gans has just been in London, and before that he was in Washington, D.C. What's your assessment of his tour of Western capitals?
I think it's more theatrics. I think the Biden administration has been unable and unwilling to put sufficient pressure on the Netanyahu government. For example, stopping the arms, stopping the support, making its support conditional, if anything. And it's creating instead this political storm about some divisions in Israel and that they are appealing to one side of the war cabinet and the other. Well, let's remind our viewers around the world that Benny Gantz is and has been a war criminal for more than a decade now. I mean, he is the one who boasted of bombing Gaza back to the Stone Age in the 2014 war. He is the architect of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Netanyahu sits in his office and takes political decisions. The architects of the war, the ones who are managing the genocide, are Benny Gantz and Gallant and Eisenkot and other generals in Israel. So for the United States to make them look like they are the good guys, like as if they were the moderates, is utter humbug. It is just in crisis. It doesn't know what to do. And Benny Gantz shuttles and goes between Tel Aviv, Washington, and London. And of course, in London, he hears the same thing he heard from Washington. And it all washes away because the war continues. And we know for a fact, because we heard it from American officials, that they support the war even after whatever temporary ceasefire is going to be carried out. So they continue to support Gantz in his war. They continue to support the war on Rafah and Khan Yunis in the south part of Gaza. All what they're asking the Israelis to do is simply try to reduce the casualties a little bit because it has become so embarrassing for Israel's allies in the West, because now they are implicated in the ongoing genocide in Gaza.
Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst there for us in London today. Thank you, Marwan.